Hi there. I wanted to present this as a sort of counter to the impression that some Gnostics might have of Thelema, which is the magico-philosophy of Aleister Crowley, mystic and poet and mountain climber and big game hunter. And I think that before we get on to the more esoteric aspects of Thelema and the more Gnostic aspects, it has to be said that Thelema is the law of the strong. Whatever feels strong is good. And whatever gives you a buzz, whatever gives you a sort of feeling behind the back of your ears, that your ears are burning. And it is anti-authoritarian and anti-social even. Whatever makes you feel strong, you must do it. And whether society approves of it or not, whether your colleagues approve of it or not, whether your family approves of it or not, you must take no heed and do what thou wilt. So there is a libertine aspect of Thelema which really can't be whitewashed away. And also, the other point is, as one of the sayings of the Order of Nine Ankles has it, he who sits upon the highest pile of human bones will see the farthest, and which is an incredible sort of vision of the successful tyrant that has got his way to the pinnacle of power through the manipulation, exploitation, and predation of others, and through force majeure. And fiat, which is strength. You may say, well, these are kind of early evolving philosophies of Aleister Crowley, but they are in chapter 3 of the Book of the Law. So, Crowley took all his definitions of Thelema, and there are quite a number of them, and gave them all equal validity. Even the libertine ones, even the ones that called for blood and war and vengeance. So you must be aware of that. But Thelema also has a great interesting esoteric aspect to it. And there arises a special knowledge, or gnosis, of the true will. And there are 4 or 5 aspects of this arising, or gnosis of the true will. And the first being sort of rather the obvious one, that, spontaneous and violent attraction to that which must be achieved. So you can imagine a little girl wants to become a ballerina. She sees the ballet and, like that, I want to be a ballerina. And it's just something which she must do. It's like breathing. Even as she breathes, she must become a ballerina. And so we go from that decision that you want to do something. You want to learn a language. You want to come off alcohol. You just decide. Okay? And that decision is unrevocable, because the true will is not divided against itself. And because it's not divided against itself, it goes with the flow of the universal energy, to put it in metaphysical terms, but we'll come on to that in a minute. So the ballerina makes a decision in her life, and she's only 5 years old. And then she sets about the accumulation of all possible forces that will give practical energy to that which is willed. And so she will educate herself. She will practice 7 hours a day. She'll go to the best teachers. She'll call upon the support of teachers and parents and anyone else that she can find. She'll demand criticism of her training. and of her performances, and pretty soon she will have amassed a great deal of experience, a great deal of knowledge, technical knowledge of ballet, and she will not look back or look down or look up or look side to side. She will only look straight ahead. She is like a fish. She must swim forward or drown. So it's achievement or nothing, death or achievement, really. And that's exactly, but there's practical energy. It's not just wishing on a star. I mean, all practical and all aspects of ballet, she would encompass, and that she'll find it easy to do so because, well, it may be in her genes, of course. Her family may have come from a ballet tradition, and I think that is important. I think there are actual clusters of chromosomes which account for people's violent attraction to something which they want to achieve. For example, ballet or playing the violin or piano or whatever. It's in the genes. It is in the blood. But sometimes, it can come from someone other than one's parents. I mean, there's a story of this fantastic virtuoso pianist, a little girl. Basically, she was taught by her grandmother, not her mother, because her mother actually didn't really encourage it too much, but her grandmother did. And she started learning the piano when she was 3, on the knee of her grandmother. And, now she's world famous. Steinberg listed, the whole works. But it wasn't grind to practice 7 hours a day. It just wasn't. It was something that you did even as you breathed. So that's Thelema. And then, this is an interesting one, there is a suspension of disbelief in self. The will is not divided against itself. Very, very important principle to bear in mind. And so you don't have any other perception of yourself other than that which you intend to achieve in life. So there's no doubt, there's no self-conflict. And you also have no perception of others who might be in your way or might naysay you or be skeptical of what you're doing or even suspect you of some dastardly thing for daring to go outside the norms, values and beliefs of society to do things which nobody else has done. I think it's like in what's that film? Internet Internet Connection. Anyway, about Facebook. I'm doing things which none of you have ever tried, none of you have ever dreamed about, and I'm doing something, said Paul, that Mark rather, that you can't even recognize. I've done things in the internet that nobody else has ever even dreamed about. So that's how amazing I am, and he is amazing. Mark is the most amazing business person that's ever been born. He's the Mozart of business, in fact. You transcend other people's perceptions of you, or basically you take no notice of any negativity in your life, and you don't mix with negative people, as Donald Trump would say. You only mix with positive people that are going to reinforce everything that you do and everything that you think, and you're moving forward at that pace, with that impetus behind you. This is this is a bit more magical. You might have experienced this yourself. They say that if you're revising for an exam, you should always go away and have a cup of tea or do some gardening or something. When you come back, you'll work harder. And that's very, very true. I've discovered that. Not only that, there's this thing called latent learning. If a band goes stale and it goes away for a while and thinks about life, the players will come back and play that much better, because something in your mind works through the unconscious. It's like too much conscious will. For pure will delivered of purpose, delivered from the lust of result, is every way perfect. And this perfect will actually arises out of the unconscious. So it's not a matter of sort of gritting your teeth exactly, even though I've sort of implied that it is, the 7 hours of training a day. There's also you should give yourself the chance to slack off. And then this kind of period of slack, the unconscious will sort of bubbles up, boils up in like a cauldron. And when you come back to action, to exercising your active will, it'll be that much easier to exercise your will, because your unconscious forces will be more aligned to what it is that you actually want to achieve in the world. So that's an important kind of, I mean, they often say to athletes, do something completely different before a significant meeting, before the big race begins, because literally go on holiday, stop training, and do nothing, because you can overtrain, and you can actually stunt your progress, and you allow your unconscious to give instructions, metaphysical instructions to your muscles, and your tendons, and your lungs, so that when you come out of the stocks, you're fighting fit, and at your absolute peak. And basically, this is a very, very important principle, and one which is about sort of what the esoteric meaning of the law. The law is for the strong. If you're doing your true will in life, you will find that everything sort of slots into place. I mean, there will be challenges, there will be hurdles to overcome, there will be obstacles, there will be enemies. There'll be naysayers, there'll be people that try and put you off, try and distract you, try and put you down. But basically, you will find that the universe, unfolds as it should, because you're actually unfolding with the universe. It's like the universe is waiting for people to do their true wills, and when they are, then the universe kind of caves in, if you like. But there's another aspect to this, in that again, after a lot of training, your brain suddenly sort of clicks. It kind of succumbs to whatever it is that you're gaining mastery of. It says, all right then, I'll stop resisting. I'll stop being a conservative bore, and I will go with the flow, because you've started this flow, and I've been pushing against you, and now I'm going to just let it all go, and you are the charioteer, and I'm going to be the horse, because before the horse wouldn't do as it was told, and then suddenly it decides to do as it's told after much persistence. And but then after that, everything falls into place. Some people also say that they have a revelation or an epiphany, and then they meet people, and things happen, and extraordinary miracles happen to put them in the right place at the right time, meeting the right people, to make a project completely and utterly successful. And there's like no looking back. Now, this may not continue all the time. There may be reactive energy does build up to anything that you are doing, and you will find that there are people that actually do undermine what you're trying to do, and they may even be successful, which is the universe telling you basically to try something else, really, to put it crudely. But most of the time, you'll find that the universe buckles under your true will, and the energy just flows, and it's like you're getting on a train, and the train is unstoppable. It has its own momentum beyond a certain point of pushing. So these are all sort of standard things, I suppose, that nowadays modern New Thought will encompass, really. But the other thing, of course, that Crowley did have was pushing against norms, values, and beliefs of society. He would have liked society nowadays. He would have liked the deep web. He would have liked the internet. The internet as it used to be, where you could do anything you liked. Because the other part about Thelema is that if you do your will and indulge in everything that that society does not approve of, eventually you'll find that you'll sort of, the tantrics say, you'll blow out, and it'll sort of implode on you. And then you just simply move on from all your peccadillos. If your peccadillos are not suppressed in any way, if they're given free rein, after a while, you'll rein yourself in. Basically, you sort of, well, that's it. You just rein yourself in. And in the synagogue of Satan, for example, the prostitute becomes the nun, and the nun becomes the prostitute, and each finds self-knowledge within that huge radical shift from one paradigm, from one sort of social environment to another. Not that I don't think anybody's ever actually done this. Well, maybe prostitutes have dressed up as nuns, for whatever reason. But I don't think I don't recall anybody who's actually becoming a prostitute who was a nun. Maybe I can be corrected on this. And I suppose there are a few prostitutes who have become nuns, all right. But not many nuns have become prostitutes. So I'm not quite sure that the synagogue of Satan is empirically valid or supported by much empirical evidence on that one. Anyway, but the point about Thelema and the OTO, the Ordo Templi Orientis, the source of the OTO really is Karl Germer. And I think Karl Germer really liked and admired Crowley. He admired him. Well, Germer was a very straight-laced, very heterosexual German. And he liked Crowley because Crowley was this maverick, mad, action, man of action, bisexual, experimentalist, drug fiend, who did everything that he could to upset Victorian society, and upset the stodgy conventionality of his time, but he was also, just an adversarial force, really. And Thelema can be seen as an adversarial force. It can be seen as a bloody-minded force that basically you question everything. You're like Socrates. You question everything. Your will is to question authority. Everything must be done on experience. You're one of these people that won't do anything they're told unless they're given a good reason for doing it. They won't just do it because I tell you to do it. That's not enough. You've got to explain carefully why the person should do it, and you have to explain it. It's for mutual benefit of all parties, that you follow the instruction. Otherwise, a maverick, a sort of James Dean character, they just won't do as they're told. So they demand an explanation for everything, for every law, for every social norm, and that demand is part of what makes Thelema. Puts the salt in Thelema, really. And so it's a rough and ragged and sometimes quite a violent philosophy, really. It's a philosophy that requires you to live dangerously, to live very near the edge. I mean, you're the fool in the card. You blindfold yourself and you climb a rock. You climb without ropes. You climb without a safety net below you. You have sex with the local gangster's wife, full in the knowledge that you could be assassinated for doing so. You live absolutely to the full, and you don't talk the talk, you walk the walk, for definite. And success is thy proof. It's the only proof that you have. If something is successful, if something evolves successfully, then it has its own mark of excellence stamped on it. You don't need some some poo-pah higher magus to give you a pat on the back. If you're successful, then the universe is patting you on the back. Okay, and that's good enough. Should be good enough for you. And what other people think of you doesn't, you don't give a hoot what everybody else thinks of you or doesn't think of you. You're going to go your own sweet way. And if you tread on people's toes, or you cause conflict, or there's conflict between you and another person, well, so be it. You're not backing down, and if they're not backing down, then it's it's war, basically. And war is a glorious thing. Dulce decorum est pro patria mori. If your country is at war, and it annihilates an enemy, then so be it as well. So Thelema is about, as force majeure. It's fiat. It's not politically correct. It's not it's not being nice and loving and ecumenical. It's about the law of the jungle and nature in red in tooth and claw sort of thing. And yet it also has these interesting aspects as well, and including a mysterious sort of aspect of the unconscious working to perfect your true will. So all these things sort of come into the cauldron of Thelema for sure. And I wouldn't want you to go away with any other kind of impression, or with a sort of whitewashed impression. There's white and there's red and there's black in this picture that I've painted for you of Thelema. And of course, it has to be said that it is Gnostic, because it is a special knowledge of these things which aligns you to the principles of Thelema.